All right, welcome back, everybody, to Rylee Reloaded. I finally back once again, but this time I'm not playing any games. I want to talk about something. I know it's pretty late, ungodly hour to be streaming, but this is something that's been on my mind for a little bit, and I just figured it'd be kind of neat to see what other people think about it, or more so for the VOD, if anything. But there's been some crazy stuff happening in Canada that is pretty rough for Canadian creators. It does threaten pretty much anything a Canadian creator does. It's Bill C-11, and it's at the point where YouTube itself is saying, go ahead and sign a petition for this because this is the only way that your livelihood won't be affected. So Bill C-11, it has to go through a reading and it gets approved, whatever, but it's quite far along in the process. Any creator that create anything in Canada will be subject to the same broadcasting rules as a big broadcaster would be. So instead of making like a company like YouTube responsible for that to promote stuff, it would make the person who is creating the content personally responsible. It makes it so that if you're a Canadian creator, you can be more discovered. That's kind of the idea behind the bill. You're on YouTube, right? More Canadian content will be promoted to people within Canada rather than anything outside of that. But the problem in it comes when the CRTC, which is Canada Radio Broadcasting Agency, it's basically a government organization that takes care of what is considered Canadian content and what can be pushed out, gets a final say in pretty much everything you do as a creator. There's been a lot of big creators like Mudahar and everything that have talked about it. And I've been thinking about it too in the back burner. I've been watching this like, oh shit, that's kind of scary. Bill C-11, also known as the Online Streaming Act, is the updated version of Bill C-10, first introduced last year by former Canadian Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault, I don't know, now spearheaded. Bill C-11 partially fixes some of C-10's faults without fixing the core problems. Bill C-11 expands the Broadcasting Act that grants the CRTC regulatory powers over radio and television, cover all audiovisual content on the internet, including content on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and podcast clients. Under Bill C-11, all platform hosting audiovisual content that are not specifically excluded must make financial contributions to producing officially recognized CanCon, currently defined as a 1980s era point system built around legacy media broadcast. So Canadian content, there was a bill that came out that made it so in Canada you had to have a certain amount of Canadian content on your broadcasting site, like legacy medias, TV, anything like that. And at the time it did a great thing at helping Canadian content creators get seen, but it doesn't really translate that well into the internet with all the systems that you have at like YouTube, TikTok, any of those places. There's a bunch of people that are saying things like overnight creators are going to wake up and find the kind of content that's been successful in an unregulated YouTube is no longer successful in a regulated. You're going to lose tons of revenue. Like YouTube itself is putting out ads saying that it's going to be bad. My thought on this, and the way I think it works, and I could be completely off, is that if you put it out there, it doesn't go out into the world too much because maybe the CRTC like throttles it from going out and being shown elsewhere in the world. So if you're losing views inside of Canada, YouTube will have less incentive to push out your video because the revenue generated from your video will be less. And YouTube's a business, they want to make money overall. So their algorithms, their systems and everything are designed to make money. As I've seen Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamer, he was talking, he's like, I gotta leave Canada. And I was sitting there thinking, man, it doesn't sound so bad. But it's pretty bad that YouTube itself is coming in and saying, you need to stop this guy. I don't know, giant company, it's Google. They'll probably string your organs from the ceiling before they lose money, but at the same time, I can definitely see it. And who's to say that if I make something and I'm playing like an American game or a game that comes from Europe or anywhere else in the world, and they consider that not to be Canadian content, then that means that they won't push it out. So it says, Guy says, proposed law known as Bill C-11 will make platforms including YouTube and TikTok force feed Canadian content that people might not usually choose to watch, rather than curated content matched to their preferences. If people don't choose the Canadian content they're offered, it could suggest it is not popular, which could lead it to being promoted less heavily around the world. YouTube's algorithm, which applies across borders, detects whether a video has been watched, ignored, or turned off partway through, as well as whether it gets a thumbs up or is disliked. This influences how the content is promoted not just in Canada, but beyond its borders. Videos few people watch tend to be harder to find. If people do not select Canadian content they are offered, or if they indicate they do not like it, or choose another video instead, it could lend to a content that wasn't chosen, disliked, or not watched to the end, automatically being downgraded around the world. Yeah, Dank, that's exactly it. YouTube would be against it because they don't want that. You were a broadcaster. Me specifically, they'll say, Rylee, you were a broadcaster, so now you are subject to CRTC's laws. And if I'm playing an American game, or a game that's in Europe or something like that, then they say that's not Canadian content enough. They can visibly throttle what I'm putting out there to other people, and then YouTube will say not that popular. The rest of the world won't see it. Yeah, that's the problem that I'm seeing with this right now. It sounds like you need a VPN. If I just use Nord, Somebody get Nord on the line. I need him. Yeah, Lizard, I'm gonna have to put like a Canadian flag up here. Every time a video comes out, I'll just like flash a Timmy's coffee. Like, hey, CRTC, am I Canadian enough for you? But another big thing with this, they're kind of hoping that it'll make it so it levels the playing field between streaming companies and legacy broadcasting companies. That's the truth. It is censorship masked as nationality, which is something we get a lot of here in Canada. Is there anything us foreigners can do to help with C11? Get me out! Get me out! Call an extraction team. Put in like Rainbow Six or something. They're coming for me. Legacy media like Bell and Chorus have a two-sided relationship with CanCon requirements in the Canadian Media Fund. They have obligations and must pay into it, but they also draw on CMF funding. The government will expand payment obligations to a huge variety of online platforms without granting them rights to draw on the CMF. The scope set out in an early government memo on its C11 predecessor indicates that a wide variety of niche and mainstream platforms they would target, from podcasts, sports, services, video, etc., meaning that the smaller streaming services you love, like BritBox, Pocket Cast, Sports Network, would all be subject to CRTC regulation and potentially forced to figure out how to meet obligations to carry CanCon. Just Canadian content. As Bill C11 was handed to the Senate, there is no Canadian revenue threshold or limitation excluding some platforms from regulation. Anyone and everyone can be included. Smaller streaming services that aren't able or willing to create CanCon mandated content or pay into the CMF may choose to exclude themselves from the Canadian market altogether, blocking us from even accessing their content. This would be a tremendous loss to Canadians looking for specialty programming or diasporic communities in Canada looking for content from their home country. Start a GoFundMe to buy Rylee a house in NZ. The thing that's kind of scary though is it also says that in Canada there's no threshold for revenue. So if you make $1, you're subject to the CRTC guideline, which that's a government organization, which means that they set what counts as regulations. Who's to say that maybe they don't like you? Maybe you smell funny. Maybe you reek of doo-doo butter and play too much Destiny 2. A little known fact is that in Saudi Arabia, at least for some of my challenge runs and some of my videos, Saudi Arabia has a huge amount of viewers for me for some reason. Honestly, in Canada is one of my worst for anything that I do. And I'm a gaming channel. I just like to play games and have fun. That's not something that a lot of Canadians technically do a lot of the time, because it's a very harsh place where you have to constantly be working. And with the living conditions being as they are and everything as it is, people are constantly with their nose to the grindstone with not much room to just sit down and relax and watch this stuff. So a lot of Canadian content, it's going to go out to Canadians who aren't going to be interested. They aren't going to watch this stuff because they want to watch their creators elsewhere. So it could literally not even slash revenue. This could pretty much annihilate it. And when I was talking to my buddy, he was saying that it'll make it better for places and people to get discovered. But the thing that sucks about this is that if you're a new streamer, or if you're a startup person, if you're someone who doesn't have their head in the game yet, but they want to get in it and you live in Canada, you're not going to get discovered for shit. Like Canadians, you might get a small boost from the small population that actually watches a lot of stuff in Canada. Our government should be respecting and enhancing the autonomy, not making decisions about the content we get to see and hear. We believe the approach most in the public interest would be getting back to the drawing board and writing new internet-specific legislation that is not built on Canada's outdated Broadcasting Act and does not further empower an increasingly outdated CRTC. However, if the government can't be dissuaded from cramming the whole internet into broadcast framework, 4 crucial changes will reduce Bill C11's potential harm. Clearly and explicitly exclude all user-uploaded content on all social media platforms from the CRTC's regulation by removing or amending Section 4.2 of Bill C11. Drop any mandatory CanCon requirements for algorithmically generated feeds and search results. Promoted CanCon content should appear in areas of the platform users can opt into, not forced into every algorithm-assisted feed and playlist we create. That's something I agree with. If you're going to take this and you want people to see more Canadian content, who's to say you don't just go to YouTube and say, can you guys create a Canadian creators tab or something like that? Put that into legislation. Don't say to the little guy who barely has anything as it is and go, you're the problem. You gotta fix this shit. It's like, no, these are people who are just creating things out of their bedroom. Like me, I'm in my living room right now. I'm just in a corner with my little desk set up. The outcry is huge in Canada, at least. I know a lot of people are very upset with it. This bill is specifically to protect old media outlets. It's got nothing to do with new streamers or the new way of creating content. From now on, Rylee only does Beyond Light challenge runs to make his content look more accurate to Canada. I'll just have to like put on red and white armor now. I'm no longer blue and orange. They took my Hot Wheels from me. Government took my Hot Wheels spending. But there's been a lot of content creators that are saying it's a pretty rough situation. And being a content creator myself who lives in Canada, but as a creator, I would want to see creators do good. And you can't do that if you're limited to Canada. And then algorithms on all these social media platforms say your stuff isn't popular, it doesn't generate revenue for us. Why would we want to put that out there more? Sometimes not saying anything is as bad as saying something. Or it can be even worse in that case. But the fact that it has become so much harder and our government is against people who actually want to follow their passions and create, just have fun with what they do. I always say, like, don't even worry about me in Canada. I'll find a way to make it work. I have my day job. I still live here. I'd like to leave sometimes. I've actually, this is the funny thing. I've been talking to Decius Jin, and since he's my brother, this is so stupid, but I've been looking at Romania a lot. That's why I was mentioning it. I was like, this doesn't look like a bad place to be. And for an OnlyFans, Rylee Reloaded OnlyFans, you just open it up. Me full on goat seed, but I have to put like a Canadian sticker on my butt cheek. Go against CRTC regulations. Can we beat C11 lightless using only white gear? If you don't post a vid on this C11 situation, even though you publish the ads to cross fanfic, the world will know what your priorities are. I've talked to a lot of Canadian people, and everyone I know, at least in my area, I've met one person who played Destiny that wasn't Decius Jin. Discoverability does become harder, and it becomes harder and harder to make this a living. Do this as a passion, do it as a lifestyle, get to basically make your hobby your job. You won't be able to do that anymore. That's the thing, Dank. The only thing you can do is get loud, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try and spread it around, this sort of stuff, even if my concerns aren't valid, and it, you know, at the end of the day, this doesn't matter. Like it comes out and all of a sudden everything's fine. All of a sudden everybody's getting like thousands and thousands of views and money is raining from the sky and creators enter a renaissance. Like, it's still good to voice what worries me about it, and as a Canadian creator, because 9 times out of 10, just basing it off of experience, when they say it'll go one way, it doesn't go that way. Yeah, there you go, Jin. Rye versus C11. I'm fighting it. All right, I'll see you guys. Have a good night. I'll be back tomorrow.